Good evening. Welcome to this evening's reflection. We're approaching Remembrance Sunday in less than 2 weeks' time, when we have the opportunity to give thanks for those who sacrificed their lives in times of war and conflict to try and bring peace and reconciliation to a troubled world. It reminds me that for every human activity, there has to be some kind of motivation, whether it be at the mundane level of our day-to-day working lives, or in the academic field, or in the field of sporting achievement. But what of our motivation as Christians? Paul gives us some helpful insights into the motivation in his life. In 1 Corinthians 15 verse 10 he says, "By the grace of God I am what I am." And in this chapter of Corinthians, Paul gives us 3 statements about the grace of God that we can apply to our own lives and situations. Paul firstly says that the grace of God is a divine gift. You will recall that Paul had been totally opposed to the new Christian church until on that remarkable road to Damascus experience he had a vision, and he was totally changed to become the great teacher who had such an influence on the growth of the early church. And Paul says it was the grace of God that changed him from a rebel to a disciple of Jesus. Imagine for a moment you are the parent of a young child, a child who decides to scribble on the new wallpaper. What do? Well, the first thing you do is to punish the child, to encourage them not to repeat what they've done. You've also demonstrated justice because you've punished them for what they've done. But you've also shown mercy because the punishment, hopefully, is not too severe. And then a little later, you give that same child a treat, a biscuit or a chocolate, not because it was deserved, but because you love them. This is grace. And in much greater way than that, this is what God has done for us. His grace is a divine gift to each one of us. But secondly, Paul says the grace of God is a dynamic stimulus. It is God's will to blot out the record of my sins through his mercy and to change me from a hopeless sinner into a useful servant. And it is through our gratitude to God that we should be encouraged to serve him and to work for him, not out of a sense of duty or because all the other church members expect us to, but because we are motivated by God. The grace of God is a dynamic stimulus in our lives. And thirdly, Paul says, the grace of God is a daily strength. No amount of bribing or threatening by parents or teachers or church leaders will motivate us for very long. Yes, we need their encouragement and support, but unless there is a deep underlying motivation to serve God, we will fall short and lose enthusiasm. Each one of us needs to reach the point where we say, "Not I, but Christ who lives in me." When we become Christians, we need to say, "Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. God's grace is not only concerned with forgiveness and eternal life, it also involves service. And for all of that, we need the grace of God. So like Paul, we need an attitude of gratitude for the grace of God, a divine gift, a dynamic stimulus, and a daily strength in our personal lives. May we all acknowledge the grace of God within us day by day. Have a good evening.